All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally tests the absolute limits of driving skill, heavy machinery, and human endurance. We are unpacking the official Oregon Commercial Driver Manual. But, we aren't just looking at your standard rules of the road here. Nope, we're zeroing in on the ultimate test of a driver's mettle, environmental mastery and mountain descents. Think of this as your survival guide for navigating the creeping dangers of night driving, unpredictable severe weather, and the downright terrifying physics of steep mountain downgrades. Let's get right into it.
Okay, picture yourself behind the wheel of a fully loaded commercial truck. You've got up to 80,000 pounds of metal and cargo just constantly pushing you forward. Now, put that truck on a 6% downward slope and add ice. So how do you actually stop it? Well, the answer is this incredibly precise combination of physics, mechanical know-how, and flawless decision-making. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how professional drivers survive these extreme stakes, and we're starting with the very first threat you face the second the sun goes down. Section 1. The hidden dangers of darkness. Because nighttime driving, it's an entirely different beast.
The risks just multiply at night, and your margins for errors shrink drastically. But the danger isn't just about what's outside the cab, it's what's happening to you, the driver, inside. When you're fighting fatigue, the warning signs are severe. We're talking heavy eyelids, completely disconnected thoughts, and that absolutely terrifying reality of not remembering the last few miles you just drove. This really shows that fatigue is far, far more than just feeling a little tired. It's a severe physical impairment. The manual actually notes that a staggering 60% of Americans have driven while feeling sleepy, and drowsy driving causes an estimated 100,000 police-reported crashes a year. Basically, when you're fatigued, your vision and judgment are impaired just as if you were under the influence of alcohol. And look, even if you are perfectly rested, the darkness itself severely limits your reaction time. The difference in visibility is pretty stark. Low beams, they only illuminate about 250 feet ahead of you. High beams give you a bit more, about 350 to 500 feet. You absolutely must adjust your speed so that your total stopping distance stays within that visible range, because if you're going too fast, by the time your headlights actually reveal a hazard, well, it's already too late. Oh, and let's not forget the glare from oncoming cars. Being blinded by bright lights for just 2 seconds at 55 miles per hour, that literally means you'll travel more than half the length of a football field completely blind. No way you want to risk that.
Section 2. Mastering the elements. All right, so we made it through the night, but now the weather's turning on us.
When things get rough, relying on your gut feeling just isn't going to cut it. We have to rely on the precise math of survival. When the road gets wet, water acts like a lubricant between your tires and the asphalt, which can actually double your stopping distance. So the math here is simple but life-saving. You've got to reduce your speed by about 1/3 the second that road gets wet. To put that into perspective, if you're cruising at 55 miles per hour and it starts to rain, you need to bring that beast down to about 35 miles per hour just to maintain a safe stopping distance.
But what if that rain turns into packed snow? Well, the math gets even more unforgiving. You must cut your speed by at least half, 50% or even more. And if the surface actually turns to solid ice? The manual is incredibly clear here. Reduce your speed to an absolute crawl and stop driving as soon as you can safely do so.
Speaking of ice, there is a hidden assassin out on the road, and it's called black ice. It's this super thin, transparent layer of ice that just makes the road look wet. Literally, anytime the temperature drops below freezing and the road looks wet, you just have to assume it's black ice. But honestly, standing water is just as bad. At speeds as low as 30 miles per hour, your vehicle can actually hydroplane. That means the tires completely lose contact with the road, effectively turning your 80,000-pound truck into a massive water ski. If that happens, you lose all steering, all braking. You've got to recognize these conditions early and drastically drop your speed.
Section 3. Oregon's most notorious downgrades. Let's see how all these factors build up.
Everything we've just talked about, visibility, fatigue, slick roads, heavy weight, it all comes to a terrifying climax when we hit the harrowing mountain passes of Oregon. Welcome to Siskiyou Pass, commonly called the Siskiyou Pass. It is one of the most hazardous stretches along Interstate 5. You start way up at a summit elevation of 4,310 feet, and then you plummet 2,300 feet in just 6 miles. That is a continuous 6% downgrade, riddled with sharp curves, and totally notorious for sudden fog and black ice. It's so treacherous that approximately half of all vehicles involved in accidents on this stretch are commercial trucks. Believe me, if you don't respect this pass, it'll chew you up.
And then we have the ultimate environmental boss battle, Emigrant Hill. Universally known among truckers as Cabbage Hill.
Located on westbound Interstate 84, this 7-mile downgrade has some of the most incredibly changeable and severe weather conditions in the entire Pacific Northwest.
Now, what is truly staggering here is this: the 78% out-of-state crash rate. Drivers from out of town simply do not anticipate the brutality of this hill. You're losing 2,000 feet of elevation, twisting through a double hairpin turn on a 6% grade. And check out the primary cause of crashes. 59% are caused by brake problems. Drivers ride the brakes way too hard, the brakes overheat, and disaster strikes. It just highlights the absolute necessity of respecting local terrain and really truly knowing your equipment.
Section 4. The mechanics of survival. So how exactly do we make it down in one piece?
How do you conquer Cabbage Hill? How do you physically survive these extreme descents without becoming a statistic? Well, it all comes down to flawless braking technique. But first, you have to understand the enemy, and that is brake fade. Brake fade happens when your brakes get too hot from continuous use. Gravity is constantly trying to accelerate your heavy vehicle down that mountain, right? And the brakes absorb that energy as heat. But if you ride them continuously, they absorb way too much heat. The drums expand, the linings degrade, and you literally have to press harder and harder just to get the exact same stopping power, until eventually, they fail completely. To prevent this nightmare, you never rely on your brakes as your primary stopping force on a mountain. Your principal way of controlling speed is actually the braking effect of your engine in a low gear. The physical brakes are just a supplement. And when you do need them, you use a rhythmic 3-step snubbing technique. Here's how it works. First, once you hit your maximum safe speed, apply the brakes just hard enough to feel a definite slowdown. Second, keep them applied until your speed drops exactly 5 miles per hour below your safe speed. This should only take about 3 seconds. Then release the brakes entirely. This allows them to cool off. Third, as gravity pushes your speed back up to that safe limit, you just repeat the process. Brake, drop 5 miles per hour, release. It is a precise, absolute life-saving formula. We've talked a lot about anti-lock braking systems, variable message signs, and those emergency escape ramps filled with soft gravel. But the manual leaves us with this brilliantly simple, empowering quote: "The best vehicle safety feature is still a safe driver." Technology cannot replace awareness, guys. ABS won't compensate for bad habits. You are the ultimate safety mechanism. Mastering the environment isn't about luck. It's about preparation, a deep respect for the elements, and executing precise techniques. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Next time you hit the pass at 3 a.m., surrounded by black ice and dropping 2,000 feet into the foggy darkness, will you be the driver who fights the physics or the one who commands them? Stay safe out there, keep learning, and always respect the hill.